Guys, welcome back to Jason Unleashed. Oh my gosh, good to see you guys. So glad to be here. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a minute, right? And we are back. Season 2 is here today, and my guest is an incredible woman. An incredible woman. She is a New York Times best-selling author, journalist, brand expert, and television personality. She is none other than, and a household name. She's none other than Omarosa Manigault Newman. She's going to be here today in just a few, guys. It's been a while. Glad to be back. A lot has happened. A lot has changed. But you know what? We are here doing it. So, yeah. Fun. She's going to be sending a request in just a few. You guys know the drill. Questions, comments, concerns, leave them below in the comments and questions box. Can't even talk. I'm so excited. And we're going to have a great interview with Omarosa. So let's bring her in.
Omarosa. I still don't have a connection song. Omarosa, Omarosa, Omarosa. And I have my doggy here. She's part. Hey. Hi, sorry, my dog is over here like wanting attention, so I'm trying to make sure that she's okay. Omarosa, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to Jason Unleashed.
My puppy is in here too. I call it doggy daycare during the day when I'm trying to work. He's either asleep or barking.
Oh, totally. It's almost as if you're babysitting a whole other human being. It's out of this world. How are you?
I'm great. I'm having a wonderful day.
Good. I'm glad to have you here. Been dying to talk to you since your book Unhinged came out in 2018, and here we are. First of all, let's get into how are you doing in quarantine? 2020 has been like no other.
Well, you know, I think I last talked to you when we were on ET.
Yeah.
You were covering Big Brother.
Big Brother, right.
And so quarantine is very much like Big Brother. So
How so?
Preparation for this, actually.
Right. It's like we are in unprecedented times, right? And people are now more than ever, they're unhinged and they're trying to figure this out, right?
It's actually great for me. My husband and I got married in 2017. We didn't have a chance to have a proper honeymoon. And so we've had a chance to spend every single day for the last 5 months together, which has been an incredible gift, actually.
Well, it's a gift and maybe a curse sometimes because when you're around someone 24 hours a day, what have you two learned about each other that you didn't have the chance to really stew and marinate in before quarantine?
Actually, you know, I chose well. He's an incredible guy. We're very, very compatible. The other thing is we both have our own space to go to.
Right.
So I have my woman cave and he has his man cave. And I'll tell you, if it weren't for the man cave and the girl cave, the she shack or whatever they call it, it might be a different story. But,
I know.
But he also, you know, he gets to go down to the church. You know, my husband is a pastor, so he goes.
Yes.
And he still has to oversee all the operations of what's going on at the sanctuary of Mount Calvary here in Jacksonville. So we have just enough time away from each other during the day, and then we come back together. So it's been a great balance.
I love it. Omarosa, this book, right? So last saw you on ET, we're talking about Big Brother, but this book is, it came out in 2018, a New York Times bestseller, and you had to check some people on Fox to make sure that they knew that they had it correctly. It is a New York Times bestseller. And Insider's account, number one.
The reason I stress that though, Jason, is because there have been less than 30 African Americans since the list started.
Sure.
To make number one, and I'm one of them.
Right.
And the same year that I made number one, Tiffany Haddish made number one, and Michelle Obama made number one. So 3 African.
Oh, you froze, Omarosa. It's okay. Technology. We're working through it.
You know, I'm waiting for a contractor. Sorry, you guys.
Yeah.
And so, like I was saying, Tiffany Haddish, Michelle Obama, myself, we all made the number one spot on the New York Times bestsellers list. And only 30 African Americans have done that in the history of the list. So I stress it because it's important from a historical perspective.
Right.
But I also think it's important to let people know that Black authors can make it to the top as well.
They can, and making it to the top is something that you have made a career and a brand out of, going all the way
Yeah.
back to you working for Gore and Clinton 20 years ago. What people don't know about you is that you've had a career in politics for well over 20 years. Fast forward to 2003, coming on the first season of The Apprentice, and now becoming the brand that is Omarosa. How does one do that and manage to pivot in so many ways that you have successfully?
Well, Jason, first of all, I want to thank you for actually mentioning my political history. Sometimes white journalists, white reporters tend to overlook the fact that you're absolutely correct. In 1998, I entered the Clinton administration. I had been working in politics, like you said, for 20 years. I have 5 political appointments throughout the government, and it has been my great honor to serve this country in so many different ways. But when other people tend to tell your story that don't look like you, they tend to leave out very important details. And so often you saw headlines that said, how did Omarosa get a job in the White House, right?
Right.
Not realizing that I had more experience than most of the people who were in the Trump administration. So first of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for telling my story and telling it correctly. But to answer your question about branding and marketing, I always knew the importance of my name as a little girl because my father was very intentional in making sure that I knew my lineage, that I was a Nigerian woman, a proud African woman. And he made sure that I also made the teachers in my elementary school pronounce my name properly.
Hard O. It's a hard O. A hard O, not a soft O.
Well, because it takes on a different meaning.
Sure.
If you're a Hispanic American, then Omarosa means lovely.
Right.
And that's wonderful, but that just isn't my name. I'm a Nigerian, so Obama, Oprah, Omarosa, all
Right.
those O's is very tonal, and it's very much a part of how we communicate. That's very different than how other people communicate. So yeah, my branding started in elementary school, and it continued anywhere I went. I made sure that people knew that not only that was my name, but that was what I answered to. But what comes with that is the full Omarosa experience, right? So
Right.
you don't get the name, you get all this, honey.
Well, and all of this is what we've been, I would say, obsessed with for 17 years now. Omarosa, I mean, you are a household name. It's a fact. This book, though, you have been one of a handful of people or selected few that have been able to be deep inside the Trump administration, right? You've been one of only a handful of African Americans that have been deep inside the Trump administration. Writing this book and having it come out, do you now feel more vindicated because other people that have defected from the administration, we have James Comey, Kelly, who ousted you from the administration. He is now speaking out against Trump. Do you have a deeper sense of vindication when it comes to you telling your story now?
Fantastic question, and an important question. It's interesting because my book came out very early, and I started to talk about the deterioration that I saw in the president, his mental deterioration, his decision making, his dangerous instincts, some of the racial things that I observed. And at the time that I was saying it, people seemed as though it was unbelievable, right? And they questioned the credibility of the stories, only to have white men come out and say the same thing and get applauded, right? It's like, it's the experience of being this, trying to be a Black author and having our stories taken seriously and authenticated. Oh my God, your puppy's so cute. But you're right. I was the only African-American senior staffer advising the president in this administration to date. They have not replaced me in that particular role. They have a junior staffer doing the job, which I think actually African-Americans deserve someone who is informed and know how to do the work. But also having that unique experience as the only African-American woman requires people to open up their mind and understand why it's so important for us to have a seat at the table.
Right.
Why is it important for African Americans to have representatives, particularly when trillions and trillions of dollars, American paying taxes, dollars being spent that we deserve our slice of the pie, right?
Right.
So thank you. Telling my story was important, and not allowing people to continue with this narrative that so many African American women experience when they're in white spaces and they're the only Black faces. I've heard it over and over again, where people act as though African American women, particularly if we speak out, we're aggressive, we have an attitude problem, you know, or we're difficult to get along with. And I wanted to also address those things as well.
Well, you absolutely addressed those things in what you called receipts, because you had receipts a mile long in regards to your experience in the White House. Almost, so some people, and you have openly said on many a platform, on many network, that you were complicit in some of the behavior that Trump was, I guess, displaying to the American public. Going forward, 2 years later, looking back on all of that, regrets, is there anything that you would have done differently?
Well, thank you. First of all, complicit in the sense that when you work for a president, you don't get to say, there's so much that I still haven't said. Maybe there needs to be an unhinged part 2, but so much of what I experienced because of the level of my appointment was classified.
Right.
So there's still so many things I can't even share with you all that I want to tell you.
Legally? Because of legal ramifications?
Well, when there's classified information, you just can't share it. It's against the law. And you'll notice that there's gaps in incidents that I was in the room for that I can't speak of because of the classification level that I have.
Right. Sure.
And so I also want to address receipts. I want to say to your viewers and anyone that's listening.
Sure. Go ahead.
So many of us as people of color have things that happen to us in the workplace that when we repeat to other people, they don't believe it. They don't
turn a blind eye.
They always default to the white counterpart who is telling the story as the one having the credibility. And so I had to find a way to have people hear what was said to me, how it was being said to me, and what happened to me.
Right, yes.
I was locked in the situation room. When I said it the first time, people were like, yeah, okay. But when I released, the recording where you could hear them saying these things, it was, unfathomable. So I'm just saying to you that I think if you work in a place with sketchy people that get tricky, people who get amnesia, it happens.
Right.
All the time.
I mean, it's daily.
Your back. Okay.
Well, I mean, Omarosa, you okay? Let's just get real. Only Omarosa Manigault Newman would have the balls to record, and you knew the climate and the environment of which you were moving in regards to being in the White House. You knew you had to cover your bases. What you did is what lawyers would advise their clients to do daily: document everything. But you took it a step further. You said, let me press record and get spoken word of the egregious acts that are happening to me. Me being ousted from the White House for what you have reported as petty. They're accusing you of things that were petty. Abusing car privileges, things of that nature. So for you to be like, let me record everything, was a smart move. Have people reached out to you after that asking for guidance on how to navigate corporate America?
I have had so many professional men and women reach out to me because they too have been in a position. I'm considered a whistleblower because I blew the whistle on some of the more criminal, corrupt things that I observed. But there are other people who are in those positions who, just really don't know how to go forth. First of all, let me be clear.
Sure.
You have to make sure that you're in a one-party state. So, be careful. New York and DC, thank God, where most of the incidents that I had happened in one-party states. But other than that, you have to also realize that your story matters.
Right.
That you have to say and your experiences matter, that they have value. And you can never allow anyone to take that away from you, Jason.
Well, I would agree with that 100%. I mean, when people think about you, I would say a word that comes to mind is resilient, because you have survived immense tragedy. You have survived cancel culture before cancel culture was a thing. You have survived men coming for your neck. Where does this superhuman backbone? You survived unscripted television. Where does that come from? Who has imbued you with that power?
Well, first of all, honey, I'm uncancelable, okay? Because the only person that I subscribe to is Christ, right?
Hmm.
And his words are so very clear. I know the plans I have for you. And so the only person who could possibly cancel me out is God, and he won't do that. And that's why I have never subscribed to cancel culture, nor have I ever given anyone the power to even think that they can cancel me.
Yeah.
But it's been 17 years. I mean, 17 years of seeing people come and go, right?
Right.
And building a foundation into entertainment that's built on being authentic, right? I tell it like it is. Now, I have learned over the years to speak the truth in love with a little more of a gentle approach. But my brand is really built on being straightforward, honest, and authentic. And that's
Right.
important.
Important, absolutely it is, Omarosa. And what do you say to those people who have shrouded your name in monikers like villain, self-serving, narcissistic? What do you say to them now? What do you say to them?
Well, what's interesting is I was listening, today's the big day. We believe that Biden's going to announce his pick for vice president. And one of the leading candidates, Kamala Harris, who is an incredible sister, right?
Absolutely, yes.
The same words you just used to describe what people have called me are terms that have been applied to her, which to me says something about how people try to label African Americans, right?
Sure.
And so have I gone into a competitive reality show and tried to win? Yes. If I were a white male doing the same things I was doing in terms of strategizing and trying to be cunning and trying to make it to the end of a show that people get eliminated on, if I were a white male, they'd have been applauding me and calling me the greatest hero of reality TV. But because of the dynamics that come with being a very smart, articulate, intelligent African-American women, instead of celebrating that, they demonize it. Right. And they label it villain instead of diva, right? These are the semantics that they use with us. But I reject it. I reject the notion that because of my approach to playing a game show, that's what it was, a game show, that forever I should carry those ridiculous labels that came out of the game. I leave it all in the boardroom, and so should you.
Right. The boardroom and television and unscripted. We're not going to call it reality. We'll call it unscripted television because it's really not real, right?
But I'm glad people think it's real.
Well, good for them.
If they think it's real, good for them, right?
Right. But when, as you said, you are this master at branding. You have been able to ascertain and acquire wealth and status and notoriety and have this experience. Will we see Omarosa back on television? And well, okay, answer that because the next question I really want to know. But a talk show. You are such good television. Period. Point blank. Period. When are we going to have another Omarosa? What's that? Okay.
I've never left TV. Well, if you say back on television, I've never left TV. Not only do I contribute quite often to the cable news shows that you see, I continue to contribute my voice and my views to the political climate that's happening. But I do projects all over the world. I just taped a documentary for a German news station. I taped a show for an Australian station. I have done coverage for BBC and Sky News. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I'm global, honey.
Right. Domestically, though.
CBS or whatever. Just don't know. Just don't think I'm not working. The truth of the matter is I've had to go on a global stage because the world is captivated by what's happening in our country, right?
Right.
And the implications of what's happening resonates around the globe. And so when you talk about a talk show, I did my first talk show pilot back in 2005.
Right.
With NBC Universal. It was my first development deal. I've done a second talk show But you know the saying, it takes 20 years to be an overnight success. And so I'm on year 17. So I'm expecting by the 20-year mark that maybe finally I'll have my touch. But you can appreciate it. If I told people how many pilots I've shot in Hollywood over the year, it would make their brain explode, because it takes 100 pilots to get one yes.
Right, right. And not to discount your contributions on television currently. Absolutely, you are busy. But what I mean, returning domestically to television here in a different outfit that really, unscripted television. I'm sure Big Brother fine, The Apprentice fine. Those are in their own lanes and of a certain type of reality. But I think people, your audience, your fans, the people that are commenting below, Omarosa, want a deeper dive into your life, in Jacksonville, and what a day they don't want a snack, they want a buffet of Omarosa. That's what we're wanting. So we're hoping to see that. You mentioned, and I know you have to go, you're a busy woman, the state of our country and blackness in our country. Again, unprecedented times we are living in 2020, and this has been the life and the activity that's happened for decades. But now I feel like, because cell phones and social media what goes through your mind when you see the civil unrest on television, when you see that we still don't have justice for Breonna Taylor, when you see the death of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, what resonates with you viscerally?
I was so happy when Michelle Obama shared that she experiences levels of depression,
Right.
And
Yes.
struggle. As someone who has, as you mentioned at the beginning of our interview, gone through such tragedies, my father was murdered, my brother was murdered, my little cousin was just murdered by her baby father 3 weeks ago.
Sorry to hear that.
These incidents that you talk about trigger so much for me, a lot of the experiences that I've experienced in my own life. And I have always wanted to be a part of the solution. And one of the things that Pastor and I have tried to do was to continue to stay on the front lines fighting for what's right, but more importantly, not being afraid to contribute to the process in our own way. So for me, policy is my lane. So the things that will last beyond the Trump administration, beyond even what we're experiencing now, are policies that impact policing, that impact how we approach civil rights, how we fight for funding to improve the relations between policing and the community. And so much of that is built on policy. And I believe that the people who march are needed to raise their voice. The people who decide to go on social media and be social media warriors, that lane is needed too. But I'm a policy wonk and a policy fighter. And I have always made sure that in my community, that the people who represent me have heard my voice and hear the voices of our community. And I think that that's critically important as we go into November the 3rd.
Right.
Let's be this is the single most important election of our lifetime. And I committed to register 1,000 new voters here in Jacksonville and around the country. And I'm only halfway there. And I've been targeting 18-year-olds who are now eligible to vote but don't see a reason to vote. And so when I tell you, I've been everywhere you can possibly reach that particular demographic and have tried to school them on how important their vote is and how many people died. That's, I think, so important in how we can really impact what's happening on November the 3rd.
You are so right about this being the greatest, most important election. I think also by you getting out and canvassing and connecting with these younger millennials, these young Gen Zs, is an amazing form of activism, because people think of activism and, marching and Black Lives Matter, which those are all beautiful, essential, crucial, much needed things. But activism transcends beyond that as well. Beyond that as well. And also, I wanted to say my condolences for your loss. People were saying I didn't show empathy. I absolutely showed empathy, but I feel I want my condolences, because I know it's hard to lose family members. It's hard to go through tragedy, and now more than ever, empathy and kindness is paramount. Before I let you go, Omarosa, I have one more question. And if you weren't who you are, and you haven't had the career you've had, the knowledge, the smarts, everything that you have that makes you the woman that you are, what would you be doing? And would you walk away? Would you walk away from all this and start anew someplace else?
I've been fortunate enough to answer the call that Christ put on my life, and that is the call to spread the word of God to anyone that will listen. Truly, his word is the sweetest thing that I know. And so living in my truth and being
Mhm.
able to have my steps ordered by the Lord has been all that I needed to realize about my purpose. There is this idea that in scripture that says only the things that you do for Christ will last. I hope that when the obituary is written and people are telling the story of my life, that they don't mention The Apprentice or reality TV shows or appearances, or mention that I worked, in all of these interesting places, or that I was a New York Times bestseller. I hope that they mention that she did missionary work, that she went around the world spreading the gospel, that she tried to get people to understand that Jesus is the reason that I'm not laid out on the floor crying every day because of my losses, that my faith has carried me through the worst periods of my life, including this crazy time right now. I wake up knowing not what's going to happen, but who's in control of what's going to happen, and that's
Mhm.
Christ. And so your question about what I'd be doing, I would be a Sunday school teacher. I would be a preacher. I would be an usher. I would be a chaplain, but I would be working to advance the kingdom of God.
Got it. And with that, faith has the power to move mountains, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Omarosa, you are the author of 3 books. Your latest is Unhinged. It's available now. And wow, I'm gonna be honest. I was a little trepidatious having you on today, and I was a little scared because people were like, oh, you got Omarosa on the season 2 premiere of Jason Unleashed, boy. And I was like, listen, you guys. It's going to be great, but you have been a joy and a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, and all the best. I'm sure we're going to do part 2 of this interview later on because I know great and amazing things are around the corner for you.
Let's do it around the election. I think that would be really important. Come on, let's do it sometime around October, November.
I'll come to Jacksonville and we could do this live from Jacksonville.
We could do that, absolutely.
All right, Omarosa, you be well, take care, and again, thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.